Americans for Fair Taxation presents the Weekly Chairman's Report, written by Steve Hayes, president of Americans for Fair Taxation, and recorded by Bob Paxton, a volunteer with the Florida Fair Tax Educational Association. And now, this week's Chairman's Report.
Hello, I'm Bob Paxton with the AFFT Chairman's Report for Friday, July 17th, 2026. The following article is reprinted with permission from Professor John Cochrane. He's one of the most prominent American economists working today in financial economics and macroeconomics. He currently serves as the Rosemarie and Jack Anderson Senior Fellow at the Hoover Institution at Stanford University, is also a research associate of the National Bureau of Economic Research, and an adjunct scholar at the Cato Institute. Professor Cochrane has written articles on the benefits of replacing the income tax with a consumption tax. And here's his article, Smith and Jefferson at 250. Last week was the 250th anniversary of The Wealth of Nations by Adam Smith. For the Hoover Weekly Rants, I looked up what must be the top 2 Smith quotes. It's not from the benevolence of the butcher, the brewer, or the baker that we expect our dinner, but from their regard for their own self-interest. We address ourselves not to their humanity, but to their self-love, and we never talk to them of our own necessities, but of their advantages. Looking at it again, I particularly like the second sentence. That proves the point. We all understand what motivates butchers, bakers, and brewers. Quoting again, every individual necessarily labors to render the annual revenue of the society as great as he can. He generally, indeed, neither intends to promote the public interest, nor knows how much he is promoting it. He intends only his own gain, and he is in this, as in many other cases, led by an invisible hand to promote an end which was no part of his intention. By pursuing his own interest, he frequently promotes that of the society more effectively than when he really intends to promote it. Now, though intending only private gain, the butcher, baker, and brewer, and even the banker, promotes the interest of society and does so far more effectively than with philanthropy or other intentional measures. The Smith quotes attract my attention for their moral vision as well. To this day, the ethics of the Bay Area hold that making money is a grubby business. Billionaires can only earn some forgiveness for their evil wealth accumulation by their philanthropy. After you've made your grubby money, do something good for society by giving it away. Mackenzie Scott is the saint, Jeff Bezos the sinner. Now, even the Stanford Business School is apologetic about making money. Now, those ethics are still rooted in the view that one person can only get wealthy by taking things from another. For thousands of years, that was not a bad approximation. Roman emperors didn't gain half the income of the empire by inventing iPhones. But Smith points out that this is exactly backwards. The billionaire who invents a personal computer, an iPhone, or a Walmart, and then Amazon's logistics, they create hundreds of billions of dollars in value for the rest of us. Now, he or she may keep a tiny fraction, and that fraction is usually left reinvested in the company, churning out more products and employment. Now, here is where he or she contributes to society far more than billionaires' usually ham-handed efforts at philanthropy. We celebrate Smith for his foundation of economics as a cause and effect discipline. Want greater national prosperity? Here's what works. Economic freedom under the rule of property rights and law, and discipline by the competition that freedom engenders. In the hard copy Chairman's Report published at fairtax.org, there's a graph depicting GDP per capita, which is a country's gross domestic product divided by its population. Those figures show that the average income is up by a factor of 20 from Smith's time. And GDP is a vast understatement of the benefits of growth. Lifespan and child mortality alone make that point. From thousands of years of misery, just a little economic freedom has brought us wonders. Even Smith's Britain was full of restrictions on who could be in what business and what price they could charge and so on. And the imperfect freedom we now have gives one hope that even more freedom can provoke additional wonders. I generally stick to the practical case, not the moral case. We do not have to argue freedom versus prosperity. We're lucky that the cause and effect is devastatingly true. But the moral case for freedom adds to the practical case and underlines it as well. Societies that generally believe that all wealthy people are evil and the act of running a profitable company is reprehensible, that instead prize redistribution, especially of other people's money, that will not long allow economic freedom to prosper. Freedom is the only ism, the only vision for the economic organization of society that is not in the end predicated on violently taking from A and giving it to B. This year is also the 250th anniversary of the Declaration of Independence. Our country's founders shared a similar vision. Rather than build a country around the hope that people, and especially politicians, would act benevolently in a way they have not done for the last 100,000 years or so, instead design a political system that channels self-interest to decent public outcome, as Smith points out that a free economic system does. That worked out pretty well too, if we can keep it. In conclusion, we can keep it if we move forward giving freedom back to the people. The fair tax is the answer. The Fair Tax Act, H.R. 25, is more than just a proposal for a retail sales tax. It's a fundamental restructuring of the federal fiscal structure. Unlike other excise taxes, which normally are applied to specific products and in different percentage amounts, the fair tax applies a 23% inclusive rate to all new retail products and retail services. The fair tax is a national retail sales tax on new retail goods and retail services. It provides a family credit so that all purchases up to the poverty level for each legal family are not taxed. There's no withholding from your paycheck, and you never have to file a tax return again telling the government how much you earned and how much you spent. Plus, you'll never be harassed by the IRS ever again because the fair tax abolishes the IRS. Now, many of you have labored tirelessly for freedom from the federal income tax and the IRS. You deserve a great deal of credit for your efforts to educate the American people on the need to fund the American government in a way that's good for America and returns freedom to the American people. It's imperative, though, that we don't replace the current income tax and the IRS with an alternative system that can still be manipulated by the ruling elite. We must let Congress and the President know that the best way to replace the income tax and the IRS is with the fair tax. Now, make no mistake about it. The fair tax is a grave threat to the ruling elites. It will strip them of their power and their ability to control us through the tax system. Their opposition to the fair tax will be fierce and unrelenting. And don't think for an instant they won't use half-truths, deception, and downright lies in their desperate attempts to hang on to their power. However, with the support of this president, we can finally eliminate the income tax and the IRS. Of course, the best course of action is not only to repeal the income tax and abolish the IRS, but to repeal the 16th Amendment as well, so no future administration can ever shackle the American people with an income tax again. We must come together and ensure that real tax reform, the fair tax, is not subverted by the elites in D.C. This will take the diligent effort from all of us. We need your financial assistance and we need your grassroots assistance. Now, if you have contacts that will allow us to get more information about the fair tax to President Trump, please let us know. Please email us at info@fairtax.org and we'll give you some options on how you can best help us. At a minimum, please call your congressional representatives and ask if he or she supports the fair tax. If so, thank him or her for their support and suggest they become a co-sponsor of H.R. 25 if they're not one already. If not, ask why not. Now, if your representative claims to be unfamiliar with the fair tax, offer to have someone come to their office and explain it to them. The solution? Pass the fair tax. Now, why would D.C. pass the fair tax and give up an almost unlimited source of donations? Well, they won't, at least not voluntarily. The only way they will is if the rest of us demand it. Isn't it time to end this ludicrous tax collection system and the IRS along with it? Help us bring about real tax reform and stop future IRS abuses. By contributing or investing $10.40 a month, you help provide a financial base to Americans for fair taxation. Now, if you can make larger contributions/investments, these will be used not for salaries, as we're all volunteers, but for the needed updates to our economic studies, which will be vital for all future years. Please go to fairtax.org to invest in AFFT and help us pass the fair tax. It's an investment in your and your family's future.
This has been the Weekly Chairman's Report, written by Steve Hayes, President of Americans for Fair Taxation. Check back every week for news and information about the fair tax, and learn why the fair tax should replace our antiquated federal income tax system. If you'd like to receive a copy of the Chairman's Report in your inbox every week, sign up at fairtax.org.